The slide appears at exactly 9:03 a.m. on a Monday morning. I'm standing at the back of the conference room, our largest one, capacity 200, currently holding about 170 employees of Dalton Manufacturing. The room smells like coffee and Monday morning resignation. People are still settling in, chatting quietly, checking phones, wondering why they've been called to a mandatory all-hands meeting with only 30 minutes' notice. My Uncle Brian is in the third row, talking to his work buddy Tom about yesterday's football game. My cousin Lisa sits near the front, scrolling through her phone, barely paying attention. My Aunt Karen is by the window with her department, laughing at something someone said. They have no idea I'm here, haven't seen me yet. I've positioned myself deliberately behind a support column, obscured by the crowd, waiting. The lights dim. The presentation begins. James Hartford, the outgoing CEO, takes the podium. He's 62, ready to retire, ready to cash out after building this company for 30 years. We've spent the last 3 months in confidential negotiations. He knows who I am, what I'm about to do. He's the only one who does. Good morning, everyone, James says, his voice carrying that practiced CEO calm. I know this is unusual, calling an emergency meeting on Monday morning, but I have important news that affects all of us. Rather than let rumors spread through email, I wanted to tell you directly, face to face. The room quiets. Phones get pocketed. Attention focuses. After 30 years of building Dalton Manufacturing, I've made the decision to sell the company. The deal closed this weekend. As of this morning, we have new ownership. Murmurs ripple through the crowd. Concerned faces. Whispered speculation. Changes in ownership usually mean changes in everything else. Layoffs, restructuring, uncertainty. My Aunt Karen leans toward her colleague. Did you know about this? No idea. Who bought us? Probably some private equity vultures. They'll strip us for parts. The slide advances. Dalton Manufacturing new ownership effective. Today another click. Owner, Alexander Chen. My full name fills the screen. Below it, in smaller text, President and CEO, the room goes silent. That specific silence when information enters but hasn't been processed yet. When the brain is still trying to match the name on screen to any known reality, then recognition hits. I see it happen in real time, row by row. My Uncle Brian's face goes from confused to shocked. My cousin Lisa looks up from her phone, squints at the screen, mouths my name. My Aunt Karen turns to look around the room, searching, and her eyes land on me. Our eyes meet across the conference room. She's frozen, disbelieving. I step out from behind the column and walk to the front of the room. Every eye follows me. The whispers start immediately, rippling through the crowd like a wave. That's Alex Chen. Wait, Karen's nephew? The quiet kid? He bought the company? I reach the podium. James shakes my hand, a gesture that's professional but also symbolic. The official transfer of power in front of witnesses. Then he steps aside, giving me the floor. I look out at the faces. Some confused, some concerned, 3 absolutely devastated. Good morning, I say, my voice steady and calm. I know this is unexpected. Let me be clear about a few things. First, this acquisition isn't about dismantling Dalton Manufacturing. It's about stability and growth. James has built something valuable here, and I intend to preserve that while positioning us for the next 30 years. I click to the next slide. Strategic vision, market positioning, investment plans. Second, there will be no immediate layoffs. Your jobs are secure. I bought this company because I believe in its fundamentals and its people. What will change is efficiency, accountability, and standards. We're going to be excellent, and that starts with clear expectations. Another slide, organizational structure, reporting lines, new policies. Third, the transition begins today. You'll receive detailed emails by end of business with specific information relevant to your department. If you have questions or concerns, direct them through proper channels, your managers, HR, or my executive assistant. We'll schedule town halls for each department over the next 2 weeks. I pause. Let that sink in. I know change is uncomfortable. I know this morning's announcement is shocking. But I'm not here to destroy what James built. I'm here to evolve it, to make it better, to ensure Dalton Manufacturing remains competitive and profitable for the next generation. Professional. Distant. No emotion. I don't look at my family members directly, don't acknowledge our relationship, don't give them anything to latch onto. That's all for now. Thank you for your time. Let's get to work. I step away from the podium. The lights come up. The room erupts in conversation, everyone talking at once, processing, speculating, trying to understand what just happened. My Aunt Karen is pushing through the crowd toward me. My Uncle Brian is right behind her. My cousin Lisa is texting frantically, probably telling everyone she knows. But I'm already moving toward the side exit, flanked by James and my attorney, David Reeves. We've planned this precisely. The announcement, the quick exit, no immediate confrontation. Alex! My Aunt Karen's voice cuts through the noise. Alex! Wait! I don't wait. I keep walking. David opens the door and we slip through into the executive hallway, leaving the chaos behind. Behind the closed door, I hear my aunt's voice, muffled but insistent. Someone tell me what the hell just happened. Welcome to the new reality, I think, where the book-smart but life-dumb kid owns the company you work for. Welcome to my world. Let me tell you how we got here. Let me tell you about a lifetime of being dismissed by people who should have believed in me. I grew up in a family that valued specific things: confidence, charisma, athletic ability, social skills, the ability to work a room, close a deal with a handshake, command attention when you walked in. I had none of those things. What I had was books, questions, a relentless curiosity about how things worked, not just machines and systems, but businesses, markets, human behavior. I'd read annual reports for fun, study company case studies, analyze why some businesses succeeded and others failed. My family found this weird. The first time I remember feeling like I didn't belong was at a family barbecue when I was 10. All the kids were playing football in the backyard, Marcus throwing perfect spirals, Lisa cheerleading from the sidelines, everyone laughing and sweating and having the kind of fun that looked good in family photos. I was sitting on the porch reading a book about Steve Jobs. My Uncle Brian came over, beer in hand, and looked down at me with something between concern and disappointment. Why aren't you out there playing with the other kids? I don't like football. I'm reading about Apple's turnaround strategy in the late 90s. It's really interesting how Jobs... Alex. He sat down next to me, his voice taking on that tone adults use when they're about to deliver important life advice. You're a smart kid. Really smart. But you need to learn how the real world works. And the real world doesn't care about books. It cares about connections, relationships, being able to talk to people and make them like you. But Steve Jobs was 1 in a billion. You're not Steve Jobs. You're a regular kid who needs regular skills, social skills. Put the book down and go play football. Learn to be part of a team. That's what's going to help you in life. I don't want to play football. That's the problem. You only want to do what you want to do. Life doesn't work that way. You have to do uncomfortable things. Meet people. Be social. Otherwise, you'll end up alone with your books and nobody to share anything with. I went back to reading. He walked away, shaking his head, muttering something to my Aunt Karen about that boy and how I was going to have a hard life if I didn't learn to come out of my shell. I wasn't in a shell. I was just interested in different things than they valued. The comparison started early and never stopped. My cousin Marcus was 2 years older, athletic, outgoing, popular at school, captain of the football team by sophomore year, dated the homecoming queen, got into college on a sports scholarship even though his GPA was barely above 2.5. Every family gathering became a Marcus appreciation session. Now that's a winner, my Aunt Karen would say, watching Marcus command a room at family parties, telling stories, making everyone laugh, being the center of attention. That's someone who's going places. Charisma like that, you can't teach. You either have it or you don't. She'd glance at me when she said it, making sure I understood the implication. I didn't have it. The Christmas I turned 12, Marcus was 14 and had just been featured in the local paper for breaking a school football record. The article was passed around the dinner table like a holy relic. 200 rushing yards in a single game, my Uncle Brian announced proudly. That's exceptional. That's the kind of achievement that gets noticed. That opens doors. Alex got straight A's this semester, my mother offered, trying to give me something. All advanced classes. Well, of course he did, my Aunt Karen said, not unkindly but dismissively. Alex is book smart. Everyone knows that. But Marcus is succeeding in the real world. Sports teach you things books can't. Teamwork, resilience, leadership. Those are the skills that actually matter in life. Books teach you things too, I said quietly. Sure, but you can't learn how to be a leader from a book, honey. You can't learn how to inspire people or build teams or think on your feet. Those are natural talents. Marcus has them. You're more of a behind-the-scenes type, and that's fine. The world needs both kinds of people. The message was clear. Marcus was the star. I was support staff, and I should accept that role gracefully. My cousin Lisa was the social butterfly. 1,000 friends, always networking, always connecting people. She'd talk to anyone, anywhere, made friends in grocery store lines, turned every interaction into an opportunity. I watched her work a family reunion when I was 13 and she was 15. She floated from group to group, laughing at jokes, asking questions, making people feel seen and interesting. Within an hour, she'd collected business cards from 3 family friends, got invited to 2 different events, and had everyone talking about what a delightful young woman she was. "That's a skill," my Uncle Brian said, watching her with obvious pride. "Being able to talk to people, make connections. That's how you succeed in business, not by sitting in a corner with your nose in a book." I was sitting in a corner with my nose in a book when he said that, at that same family reunion. I was reading The Lean Startup. I was 13. "Alex is just shy," my mother said, defending me weakly. "He'll grow out of it." "He's not shy," my Aunt Karen corrected. "He's antisocial. There's a difference. Shy people want to connect but are scared. Alex here doesn't even want to try. He'd rather read about other people's lives than live his own." "That's not true," I said, looking up from my book. "I'm reading about entrepreneurship, about how to build successful businesses. That is living. Reading about it isn't the same as doing it, sweetie, and doing it requires people skills you're never going to learn from a book." I went back to reading, stopped trying to explain. What was the point? They'd already decided who I was and what I'd never be. High school made everything worse. While Marcus collected trophies and Lisa collected friends, I collected knowledge and the growing awareness that I was fundamentally different from everyone in my family. Sophomore year, I took a computer programming class and fell in love. The logic, the problem solving, the way you could build something from nothing if you understood the syntax and structure. It made sense in a way social dynamics never would. I started teaching myself beyond what the class covered, spent hours after school in the computer lab, built simple programs, then complex ones, started freelancing on the side, small jobs from local businesses who needed basic websites. By junior year, I was making real money, $2,000–$3,000 a month from web design work. I was 17 years old with a profitable side business that I'd built myself. I tried telling my family once, at a Sunday dinner, thought they'd be impressed, thought maybe this would be the thing that made them see me differently. "I made $4,000 last month from my web design business," I said, trying to sound casual, trying not to sound like I was bragging, even though I was bursting with pride. My Uncle Brian laughed. Not mean, exactly, just dismissive. $4,000? That's it? Marcus makes that in a summer working construction. Real physical work. And he's building actual skills, teamwork, physical capability, work ethic. Plus he's getting tan and building muscle. Girls love that. "I'm building technical skills," I said, feeling my pride deflate. "Business skills, client management. I'm learning how to—" "You're sitting at a computer," my Aunt Karen interrupted, her tone implying that sitting at computers was somehow shameful. "That's not real work. Real work involves real people, real relationships, real sweat. You can't hide behind a screen forever, Alex. Eventually, you'll have to learn to function in the real world. This is the real world. Technology is the future. These skills are—" "You're 17, my uncle said, still not unkind but unbearably condescending. "You think you understand business? You think clicking buttons on a computer teaches you about business? Kid, you'll learn soon enough that the real world doesn't care about your computer skills. It cares about who you know and how you present yourself. Marcus has both. You have neither. Actually, in the tech industry is a bubble. All those companies are going to crash eventually. You want real security, learn to work with people, build relationships, develop charisma. Those skills last forever. Your computer stuff, that'll be obsolete in 5 years. This was 2005. The tech industry was not a bubble. My skills would not be obsolete. But they didn't know that. Couldn't see it. Were so certain their way was the only way that they couldn't recognize value in anything different. I stopped telling them things after that. Stopped sharing my successes, my projects, my dreams. Built a wall between who I was and who they saw. Let them keep their comfortable narrative about the smart but limited nephew while I quietly built something they couldn't understand. Senior year, the comparisons reached their peak. Marcus was heading to college on a full football scholarship. Lisa had been accepted to 5 different schools and was choosing between them based on which had the best party scene. I'd been accepted to the state school with academic scholarships that would cover most of tuition. At the graduation party, joint party for all 3 of us naturally, the energy was all about Marcus and Lisa, their achievements, their bright futures, their potential. I stood by the punch bowl, watching my family celebrate them, and felt invisible. My father found me there, put a hand on my shoulder. "You okay, son?" "Fine." "You've been quiet. This is your party too. You should be celebrating. Should I? Nobody seems to care that I'm graduating with honors, or that I got those scholarships, or that I've already been accepted to a good school. We care. It's just Marcus and Lisa have such visible achievements. Football, social success, those things are easier to celebrate because everyone understands them. And academic success, business success, those don't count? They count. They're just different. Look, Alex, you're smart, really smart. We're proud of that. But you need to understand that intelligence alone won't carry you through life. You need other skills too. Like what? Like knowing how to talk to people, how to make them like you, how to work a room, close a deal, build relationships. Those are the skills that make people successful. Those are Marcus and Lisa's skills, not mine. Then you need to develop yours, because otherwise you're going to have a very hard time. The world rewards charisma and confidence. It doesn't reward quiet bookworms who can't connect with people. What if I don't want to be charismatic? What if I want to be competent? He sighed, squeezed my shoulder. Then you'll be competent and alone, and that's a lonely way to live. He walked away. I stayed by the punch bowl. Even my parents, who tried to be supportive, couldn't see me, couldn't value what I brought to the table, could only see what I lacked compared to my more obviously successful cousins. That night, alone in my room after the party ended, I made a decision. I would stop trying to convince them, stop trying to fit their definition of success, stop trying to be valued by people who'd already decided I wasn't valuable. I would build my own definition of success, quietly, privately, without their input or approval. And someday, maybe in 5 years, maybe in 10, they'd realize they'd been wrong about everything. College was my escape, but it came with conditions. We'll help with tuition, my father said when we sat down to discuss finances, but only if you're practical about your major, something that leads to a real job, business administration or accounting, something stable. I want to study economics and computer science. Computer science. He said it like I'd announced plans to major in underwater basket weaving. That's not practical, Alex. It's theoretical. When are you going to use that in the real world? Every day, technology is a tool, not a career. You need a foundation in business, in management, in real-world skills. Computer science is a real-world skill. Software engineering is one of the fastest growing. We're not paying for computer science. We helped Marcus with his school because he's actually using his degree. We'll help you, but only if you're realistic about your future. I looked at my mother. She looked away. Fine, I said. I won't major in computer science. I'll study economics. Good. That's sensible. You can minor in computers if you want, but your primary focus should be on real business education. I did major in economics, but I also took every computer science elective I could fit into my schedule, taught myself programming languages that weren't offered in classes, built projects that went beyond any assignment, and I worked. 3 part-time jobs simultaneously, tutoring, web design freelancing, and IT support for the university. Between classes and work, I had no free time, no parties, no typical college experience, but I was learning, growing, building a portfolio that would matter more than any degree. My family didn't visit, didn't call much, didn't ask about my classes or my work or my life. They were busy with Marcus's football games, Lisa's sorority events, their own lives. I was fine with that. Better, actually. Without their constant judgment, I could focus on building something real. By sophomore year, I'd saved $15,000. By junior year, I was making more than most graduates in their first jobs. By senior year, I'd incorporated Chen Digital Solutions, hired 2 other students to help with overflow work. We operated out of my off-campus apartment, but we were legitimate, professional, growing. I didn't tell my family about the business. They'd find a way to diminish it, to explain why it wasn't real success, why it didn't count. Better to work in silence than to invite their judgment. Thanksgiving of senior year, I went home for the holiday. First time I'd been back in months. The family dinner was the usual circus. Too many people in one house, too much food, too many opinions. Marcus was there with his college girlfriend, regaling everyone with stories about his football season. Lisa was there fresh from a semester abroad, showing photos of Paris and Rome and describing her adventures. I sat quietly, eating turkey, trying to be invisible. Alex, my Aunt Karen, noticed me eventually. We barely see you anymore. What have you been up to? Working mostly. Classes, the usual. Any girlfriends? Social life? Not really. I've been busy. Too busy for fun? That's not healthy, honey. College is supposed to be the best years of your life. You should be making memories, not just making money. I'm making both. Are you? She looked skeptical. Because from what I hear, you spend all your time working. That's not living. That's just existing. I disagree. Of course you do. You always think you know better. But trust me, when you're older, you'll regret not being more social, not building relationships, not living a little. I wanted to tell her about my business, about the $40,000 I'd made that year, about the real relationships I'd built with clients and partners and employees, about the life I was building that was exactly what I wanted. But what was the point? She'd just explain why it didn't count, why it wasn't real, why I was still missing the point. So I smiled politely and changed the subject. That was the last family Thanksgiving I attended for 8 years. After graduation, I had a choice that seemed straightforward to everyone except me. I'd received 3 job offers from major tech companies, Google, Microsoft, and Amazon. Good salaries, excellent benefits, the kind of prestigious names that look impressive on resumes. Everyone said I should take one. I turned them all down. "You're insane," my roommate Jason said when I told him. "You're turning down Google? Do you know what people would do for a Google offer?" "I know, but I have my own company. Chen Digital Solutions is doing well. I want to see where it can go. It's a side hustle making $40,000 a year. Google would pay you twice that, plus stock options, plus the Google name on your resume forever." Money isn't everything. Says the guy turning down a 6-figure offer. "Alex, man, I say this as your friend. Don't be stupid. Take the safe path. You can always start a company later when you have experience and connections and a safety net." But I didn't want the safe path. Didn't want to spend years climbing someone else's ladder, playing office politics, building someone else's dream. I wanted to build my own thing, even if it was risky, even if everyone thought I was making a mistake. So I took the leap, focused full-time on Chen Digital Solutions, hired our first real employee, a developer named Sarah who was willing to work for equity and modest salary because she believed in what we were building. "Why us?" I asked her during the interview. "You could get a job anywhere with your skills." "Because everywhere else I'd be a cog in a machine. Here I'd be helping build the machine. That's more interesting to me." She started the next week. Year 1 was terrifying. Revenue was inconsistent. Some months we'd land 3 big contracts and feel invincible. Other months we'd have nothing, and I'd lie awake at night wondering if I'd made a catastrophic mistake. But slowly, painfully, we built momentum. Sarah brought on her friend Mike. Mike brought on his former colleague Jennifer. Jennifer brought on 2 recent grads she'd mentored. The team grew organically, people who believed in the vision, who wanted to build something meaningful. By the end of year 1, we had 8 employees and revenue of $200,000. Not impressive by tech standards, but sustainable, real. Year 2, we landed our first major contract, a mid-sized manufacturing company that needed a complete system overhaul. The project was worth $150,000 and would take 6 months. I assembled the team, laid out the plan. We worked 16-hour days, weekends, holidays, built something custom, elegant, exactly what the client needed. When we delivered, they were blown away. The system exceeded every requirement, saved them time, money, and headaches. They referred us to 3 other companies. Those 3 referred us to 5 more. Word of mouth became our marketing engine. We didn't advertise, didn't have a fancy sales team, just did excellent work and let our results speak for themselves. By end of year 2, we had 20 employees and revenue of $800,000. Year 3, we crossed $1 million in revenue. I moved us into real office space. Nothing fancy, but legitimate. Individual desks, meeting rooms, a kitchen that wasn't just a hot plate and mini fridge. The team celebrated with cheap champagne and pizza. We'd built something real, something sustainable, something that actually mattered. My family still had no idea. I didn't post on social media about the business, didn't broadcast my success. I just worked quietly, building, growing, proving to myself that I could do what they said I couldn't. Around year 4, I ran into Marcus at a coffee shop near my office. He was in town for some reason, saw me, came over to say hi. "Alex, man, I haven't seen you in forever. What are you up to these days?" "Running a software company. You?" "Insurance sales. It's good, steady work, not exciting, but pays the bills." He looked around the coffee shop, taking in my laptop, my nice clothes, the professional appearance I'd cultivated. "Software company, huh? That's cool, like a startup?" "Something like that. We do custom enterprise software." "How many people work there?" "About 25 now." His eyebrows went up. "That's not bad. You making decent money at it?" We're profitable. Doing all right. Good for you, man. I always thought you'd figure something out eventually. You were always smart, just needed to find your thing. The casual dismissal in his tone. Figure something out eventually, like I'd been lost until recently, made me want to tell him everything. The $1 million+ in annual revenue, the growing client list, the fact that my company was more successful than anything he'd ever touch. But I didn't. Let him keep his comfortable narrative. His time for realizing the truth would come. How's the family? I asked instead. Good. Everyone's good. You should come to the next holiday dinner. Mom keeps asking about you. Maybe. I've been busy. Too busy for family? Come on, Alex. That's not healthy. There it was again. The implication that my priorities were wrong. That working hard was somehow less valuable than maintaining family connections that had never served me. I'll think about it, I said, knowing I wouldn't. We said goodbye. He went his way. I went mine. Back to my company, back to my team, back to building something he'd never understand. By year 5, Chen Digital Solutions had 50 employees and revenue of $5 million. We'd expanded into new markets, built a reputation for excellence, became the go-to firm for complex enterprise software projects. I was 27 years old and running a multi-million-dollar company, and my family still thought I was just figuring things out. Year 6, we hit $10 million in revenue. I bought a house, nothing ostentatious, but nice. 3 bedrooms, a real office, a yard, the kind of place that said successful without screaming it. Year 7, we crossed $15 million. The team had grown to 75 people. We'd outgrown our office and moved into a larger space. That's when the acquisition offers started coming in. Larger tech companies wanting to absorb what we'd built. Private equity firms seeing potential for growth. The first offer was for $12 million. I said no, wasn't ready. Liked building, liked being in control. The second offer was $18 million. The third was $25 million. By year 8, when the offer hit $45 million, I said yes. Not because I needed the money. I was already wealthy by any reasonable standard, but because I was tired. 8 years of building, grinding, managing, leading. 8 years of carrying the weight of 75 people's livelihoods. I wanted to do something else. Build something else. The acquisition gave me that freedom. After taxes and paying out investors and key employees, I walked away with $28 million personally. $28 million that my family knew nothing about. I was 32 years old, financially independent, free to do whatever I wanted next. I took 3 months off, traveled, thought, planned, figured out what came next. What came next was looking at acquisition opportunities, struggling companies with good bones, undervalued assets, places where better management could unlock significant value. That's when I found Dalton Manufacturing. They made industrial components, boring but necessary, stable but poorly managed, profitable enough to survive but not enough to thrive. And 3 of my family members worked there. I spent 6 months doing due diligence, studying every aspect of the business, building financial models, talking to industry experts, understanding exactly what I'd be buying and what potential it had. The more I learned, the more I saw opportunity. Dalton wasn't failing, but it was coasting. Comfortable, complacent, the kind of company that could triple in value with the right leadership and investment. I could provide both. The fact that my Uncle Brian, Aunt Karen, and Cousin Lisa all worked there, that was just interesting. A coincidence that made the whole thing more personally satisfying. I wasn't buying the company to spite them. I was buying it because it was a good investment. The fact that they'd find out their nephew, the book-smart but life-dumb kid they'd dismissed for decades, was now their boss, that was just a bonus. We'll help with tuition, my father said when we sat down to discuss finances. But only if you're practical about your major, something that leads to a real job, business administration or accounting, something stable. I want to study economics and computer science. Computer science. He said it like I'd announced plans to major in underwater basket weaving. That's not practical, Alex. It's theoretical. When are you going to use that in the real world? Every day. Technology is a tool, not a career. You need a foundation in business, in management, in real-world skills. Computer science is a real-world skill. Software engineering is one of the fastest growing. We're not paying for computer science. We helped Marcus with his school because he's actually using his degree. We'll help you, but only if you're realistic about your future. I looked at my mother. She looked away. Fine, I said. I won't major in computer science. I'll study economics. Good. That's sensible. You can minor in computers if you want, but your primary focus should be on real business education. I did major in economics, but I also took every computer science elective I could fit into my schedule. Taught myself programming languages that weren't offered in classes. Built projects that went beyond any assignment. And I worked. 3 part-time jobs simultaneously, tutoring, web design freelancing, and IT support for the university. Between classes and work, I had no free time, no parties, no typical college experience, but I was learning, growing, building a portfolio that would matter more than any degree. My family didn't visit, didn't call much, didn't ask about my classes or my work or my life. They were busy with Marcus's football games, Lisa's sorority events, their own lives. I was fine with that. Better, actually. Without their constant judgment, I could focus on building something real. By sophomore year, I'd saved $15,000. By junior year, I was making more than most graduates in their first jobs. By senior year, I'd incorporated Chen Digital Solutions, hired 2 other students to help with overflow work. We operated out of my off-campus apartment, but we were legitimate, professional, growing. I didn't tell my family about the business. They'd find a way to diminish it, to explain why it wasn't real success, why it didn't count. Better to work in silence than to invite their judgment. Thanksgiving of senior year, I went home for the holiday. First time I'd been back in months. The family dinner was the usual circus. Too many people in one house, too much food, too many opinions. Marcus was there with his college girlfriend, regaling everyone with stories about his football season. Lisa was there fresh from a semester abroad, showing photos of Paris and Rome and describing her adventures. I sat quietly eating turkey, trying to be invisible. "Alex?" My Aunt Karen noticed me eventually. "We barely see you anymore. What have you been up to?" "Working mostly, classes, the usual." "Any girlfriends, social life?" "Not really, I've been busy." "Too busy for fun?" "That's not healthy, honey. College is supposed to be the best years of your life. You should be making memories, not just making money." "I'm making both." "Are you?" She looked skeptical. "Because from what I hear, you spend all your time working. That's not living, that's just existing." "I disagree." "Of course you do. You always think you know better. But trust me, when you're older, you'll regret not being more social, not building relationships, not living a little." I wanted to tell her about my business, about the $40,000 I'd made that year, about the real relationships I'd built with clients and partners and employees, about the life I was building that was exactly what I wanted. But what was the point? She'd just explain why it didn't count, why it wasn't real, why I was still missing the point. So I smiled politely and changed the subject. That was the last family Thanksgiving I attended for 8 years. High school was brutal in its own way. While Marcus was collecting trophies and Lisa was collecting friends, I was collecting knowledge. I took every advanced class available, taught myself programming, started a small web design business from my bedroom, nothing huge, just local businesses needing simple sites, but it made money, real money. $2,000, $3,000 a month by my junior year. I tried telling my family once, at a Sunday dinner, thought they'd be impressed. "I made $4,000 last month from my web design business," I said, trying to sound casual. My Uncle Brian laughed. $4,000? That's it? Marcus makes that in a summer working construction. And he's building actual skills, teamwork, physical capability, work ethic. I'm building technical skills, business skills, client management. "You're sitting at a computer," my Aunt Karen interrupted. "That's not real work. Real work involves real people, real relationships. You can't hide behind a screen forever." "I'm not hiding. I'm building a sustainable business model that—" "You're 17, my uncle said, not unkindly but dismissively. "You think you understand business? You'll learn soon enough that the real world doesn't care about your computer skills. It cares about who you know and how you present yourself. Marcus has both. You have neither." I stopped telling them things after that. College was my escape. I went to a state school, couldn't afford anything fancy, and my parents made clear they weren't helping much. "We helped Marcus with his school," my father said, "but he's actually using his degree. You're just collecting knowledge for the sake of it." "I'm studying economics and computer science. That's practical." "It's theoretical. When are you going to do something real?" So I did something real. While my classmates were partying and figuring out their majors, I was working 3 part-time jobs and building a portfolio. Web design evolved into full software development. Small clients became medium clients became large clients. By my junior year, I was making 6 figures annually from freelance work. By senior year, I'd incorporated Chen Digital Solutions. Hired 2 other students to help handle overflow. We worked out of my apartment, but we were legitimate, profitable, growing. I didn't tell my family. They'd find a way to diminish it, to explain why it wasn't real success. After graduation, I had a choice. Take a job at a big tech company or keep building my own thing. The smart money said take the job. Stability, benefits, a name on my resume. I kept building my own thing. Chen Digital Solutions grew. I hired more people, rented actual office space, landed contracts with mid-sized companies needing custom software solutions. We weren't huge, but we were solid, profitable, sustainable. By 25, I had 30 employees and annual revenue of $8 million. By 28, 60 employees and $18 million in revenue. By 30, 100 employees and we crossed $30 million. I sold the company at 32 for $45 million. Not billion, not some unicorn exit that made headlines. Just a clean, profitable sale to a larger firm that wanted our client base and our talent. After taxes and paying out investors and early employees, I walked away with $28 million personally. $28 million that my family knew nothing about. The thing about having money is that it gives you options, and patience, and the ability to play a long game. I could have retired, could have traveled the world, bought a mansion, lived off investments. I was 32 years old with more money than I'd ever need, but I didn't want to retire. I wanted to build something else, something bigger, something more satisfying. I started looking at acquisition opportunities, struggling companies with good bones, undervalued assets, places where inefficiency was costing potential. That's when I found Dalton Manufacturing. They made industrial components. Nothing sexy, nothing that would ever be a household name, but they were solid, profitable, barely, stable, mostly, and poorly managed in ways that were costing them millions annually. I did 6 months of due diligence, studied their financials, their operations, their market position, talked to competitors, interviewed former employees, built models showing what the company could become with better management. And I noticed something interesting in my research. Several of my family members worked there. My Uncle Brian in operations, my Aunt Karen in sales, my cousin Lisa in marketing. 3 people who'd spent my entire life telling me I'd never be important, never be successful, never be more than book smart in a world that valued street smart. They worked for a company I could buy. The universe has a sense of humor sometimes. I structured the acquisition carefully, used intermediaries, created an LLC as the purchasing entity, made sure my name never appeared in any paperwork until the deal closed. James Hartford, the retiring CEO, was the only one who knew the buyer's identity, and I swore him to secrecy. "Why the cloak and dagger?" he asked during one of our meetings. "You're a legitimate buyer with financing in place. Why hide?" "Personal reasons. I have family who work for you. They don't know about my success. I'd prefer to keep it that way until the deal closes." "Family drama?" "Something like that." He didn't push, didn't need to know the details, just needed to know I was serious and capable. The negotiation took 3 months, back and forth on valuation, terms, transition plans. I agreed to keep him on as a consultant for 6 months to ensure smooth handover. Agreed to maintain employment for all current staff for at least a year. Agreed to invest in modernization and growth rather than cutting costs. I wasn't buying Dalton to strip it. I was buying it to prove a point, that the book-smart kid understood business better than all the street-smart people who dismissed him. The deal closed on a Friday evening. Papers signed, money transferred, ownership officially changed hands. That weekend, I prepared for Monday. Prepared for the moment my family would realize their world had shifted. The Monday morning meeting was my idea. James wanted to send an email, do a quiet transition, let people adjust gradually. "No," I said. "All hands meeting. Everyone in one room. Make the announcement publicly. I want no confusion about who owns this company now." That's going to be a shock to a lot of people. Good. Shock creates clarity. We scheduled it for Monday morning, 30 minutes notice, mandatory attendance, no explanation in advance, just important company announcement. I arrived early, watched as employees filed in, confused but compliant. Watched my Uncle Brian grab coffee and joke with colleagues. Watched my Aunt Karen check her makeup in a compact mirror. Watched my cousin Lisa text someone, probably complaining about the early meeting. None of them saw me. I made sure of that. The presentation was simple, clean, professional. Company update, new ownership, my name. The moment that slide appeared, the moment my name filled the screen above the title Owner, was the moment 14 years of dismissal and disrespect condensed into a single point of recognition. I watched it happen. Watched my Uncle Brian's smile freeze. watched my Aunt Karen's hand stop mid-gesture, watched my cousin Lisa's head snap up from her phone. Then I walked to the front of the room and took control. Not with emotion, not with confrontation, just with calm, professional authority. I was no longer the kid they lectured at family dinners. I was their boss, their employer, the person who controlled their livelihoods. And they had no idea how to process that. The meeting ends. I exit through the side door. My attorney David walks beside me, briefcase in hand, already fielding emails from concerned employees. That went exactly as planned, he says as we head toward my new office, James's old office, now mine. Clean, professional, no drama. The drama's coming. Give it 10 minutes. You want me to stay? No, I can handle it. Just make sure HR is prepared for questions. He smirks. Questions. That's one way to describe what's about to happen. We reach the executive suite. My office is corner, windows on two sides, overlooking the factory floor. James has already cleared out his personal items. The desk is empty except for a single folder labeled Transition Notes. I sit in the chair, my chair now, and look out at the factory floor. Hundreds of employees working machines, assembling components, running the operations that make this company function. It's mine now, all of it. The responsibility, the opportunity, the weight. My phone starts buzzing, text messages, calls. I ignore them. Exactly 8 minutes after the meeting ends, there's a knock at my office door. Come in, I say, not turning around. The door opens. I can see the reflection in the window. My Aunt Karen, my Uncle Brian, my cousin Lisa. All three of them, unified by shock and confusion. Alex, my Aunt Karen starts, her voice strained. We need to talk. Then schedule a meeting through my assistant, like everyone else. Alex, this is family. You can't just... In this building, there is no family. I turn to face them now, my expression neutral. There are employees and management. You're employees. I'm management. If you have professional concerns, address them professionally, through proper channels. Don't be ridiculous, my Uncle Brian says, stepping forward. You can't buy a company and then pretend we're strangers. We're your family. We deserve an explanation. An explanation for what? I acquired a company. It's a business decision. I don't owe anyone personal explanations for business decisions. We didn't even know you had money, Lisa says, her voice rising. How do you have money? How did you buy an entire company? What have you been doing for the last 10 years? Working, building, succeeding, the things you all said I'd never do. The words hang in the air, the first acknowledgement of our history, the first crack in my professional facade. My Aunt Karen's face softens, tries for warmth. Alex, honey, we never said you wouldn't succeed. We were just trying to help you understand that I was book smart but life dumb, that intelligence doesn't make you important, that I'd never survive in the real world. Those exact quotes from your mouth, repeatedly, for years. We were trying to motivate you, to push you to be well-rounded. You were trying to make me someone I wasn't, someone more like Marcus or Lisa, someone who fit your definition of success. And look at you now, Lisa says, spreading her arms like she's revealing a prize. You succeeded. We were right to push you. This proves our point. You needed that motivation to become this. I almost laugh. The revisionist history is breathtaking. I succeeded despite you, I say quietly. Not because of you. I built everything I have while you were telling me I was doing it wrong, while you were dismissing every achievement as not real, not important, not enough. I stopped sharing my life with you because you couldn't see value in who I was, only disappointment in who I wasn't. That's not fair, my Uncle Brian says. We're family. We've always been there for you. Where were you when I started my first business at 17? You laughed at me, told me it wasn't real work. You were a kid. Where were you when I graduated college? You asked when I'd get a real job. I had a real job. I was running my own company. We didn't know. Because I stopped telling you. Because every time I shared anything, you found a way to diminish it, to explain why it didn't count, why I still wasn't good enough. Alex, come on. Lisa tries for a conciliatory tone. We're family. Whatever happened before, we can move past it. This is a fresh start. We can be proud of you now. Now, I repeat. Now that I'm someone important. Now that I'm successful in a way you can't ignore or dismiss. Now you can be proud. Yes, exactly. We are proud. We want to celebrate with you. I don't want your pride. I don't want your celebration. I don't want anything from you except professional competence. Which brings us back to my original point. If you have work-related concerns, address them through proper channels. This conversation is over. You can't be serious, my Uncle Brian says, his face reddening. You're going to own the company we work for and just pretend we're not related? I'm not pretending anything. We're related by blood. But we're not family. Family supports each other, believes in each other. You didn't believe in me, so now we're just employer and employees, that's all. You're being childish, my Aunt Karen snaps, her warmth evaporating. Throwing away family over old comments. Growing up means letting go of petty grudges. This isn't a grudge, it's a boundary. You don't get to dismiss me for 15 years and then demand a relationship now that it's convenient for you. We never dismissed you. You told me I'd never be someone important. Exact words. Multiple times. From all three of you. Silence. They can't deny it because it's true. Well, you are important now, my uncle finally says. Doesn't that matter? It matters that I always was. That intelligence and curiosity and discipline were always valuable, even when you couldn't see it. It matters that I built this without your support, without your belief, without your respect. And it matters that you only care now because it benefits you. That's not fair, Lisa says again, but there's less conviction in her voice now. Maybe not, but it's honest, which is more than I got from you growing up. I stand, signaling the end of the conversation. You all have jobs. You're all competent at those jobs, from what I've reviewed. As long as you remain competent, your employment is secure. But don't expect special treatment, don't expect family favors, and don't expect me to forget 15 years of being told I wasn't enough. Alex, my Aunt Karen tries one more time. That's all. You can show yourselves out. I have actual work to do. They stand there for another moment, frozen between anger and disbelief and something that might be shame. Then they leave. The door closes. I'm alone in my office, heart pounding, hands shaking slightly. That was harder than I expected, but necessary. The first week is chaos. Employees are nervous, uncertain, waiting to see what kind of owner I'll be. My family is in shock, oscillating between trying to reconnect with me and spreading rumors about my sudden wealth. I hear the gossip, the questions. Where did Alex Chen come from? How did he get this kind of money? Why didn't anyone know about him? I don't address it. Don't explain. Let people wonder. What I do instead is work. Actually work. I dive into operations, studying every department, every process, every inefficiency. I spend time on the factory floor, in the warehouse, in shipping and receiving. I talk to workers about what's not working, what could be better, what management has ignored for years. And I find a lot to fix. The company isn't failing, but it's been coasting. James was a good founder, but a tired CEO. He stopped innovating years ago, stopped pushing for improvement, stopped demanding excellence. Everyone got comfortable. Comfortable companies die slowly. I start making changes, some small, upgrading equipment, streamlining workflows, improving communication systems, some large, reorganizing departments, replacing ineffective managers, investing in new technology. Not everyone likes it. Change is uncomfortable. People resist. But I'm not here to be liked. I'm here to build something excellent. My family watches all this with growing unease. They're used to the old Dalton, steady but unambitious. They liked the comfort. 3 weeks in, my Uncle Brian requests a meeting, through proper channels, with my assistant, like I told him to. Progress. He comes to my office at the scheduled time, sits across from me, looks older somehow, tired. You're making a lot of changes, he says. That's what owners do. Some people are worried about their jobs, about whether you're planning to sell the company, flip it, strip it. I'm not. I told everyone that in the first meeting. People don't always believe what they're told. They believe what they see. And what they see is a new owner changing everything rapidly. Everything that needs changing. The equipment in your department is 10 years old. We're losing efficiency and quality. I'm investing $2 million in upgrades over the next 6 months. That should alleviate concerns about my commitment. He blinks. $2 million? On equipment alone. Another $3 million on technology infrastructure. Another $1 million on training and development. I'm putting money in, not taking it out. Why? Because I believe in this company's potential. Because I think we can triple revenue in 5 years with the right improvements. Because I actually understand how businesses grow. The implication lands. Book smart, life smart, all of it. We were wrong, my uncle says quietly. About you. About what you were capable of. We underestimated you. Yes, you did. I'm sorry. For all of it. The comments, The dismissiveness, all of it. I look at him. Try to gauge sincerity. He looks genuine. Looks like someone who's realized something important too late. Thank you for saying that, I say finally. But an apology doesn't erase 15 years. It doesn't undo the damage. It doesn't make us suddenly close. I know, but maybe it's a start. Maybe, but not here. Not now. Here, I'm your boss. That has to be clear and uncomplicated. If you want a relationship outside of work, that's a separate conversation. One I'm not ready for yet. He nods, stands to leave, pauses at the door. For what it's worth, I really am proud of you. Not just because you're successful, but because you did it your way, the book-smart way. Turns out that was the right way all along. He leaves. I sit there, feeling something complicated. Not forgiveness, not yet, but maybe the beginning of something that could eventually become forgiveness. Maybe. 6 months pass. The changes I've implemented start showing results. Efficiency is up, quality is up, revenue is growing. Employee satisfaction, measured by anonymous surveys, is actually improving. People like having clear direction and real investment in the company. My family settles into the new reality. They do their jobs, they're professional, they stop trying to leverage our relationship for special treatment. My Aunt Karen focuses on sales and actually excels when she realizes I notice and reward performance. My cousin Lisa throws herself into marketing with a creativity I didn't know she had. My Uncle Brian becomes an advocate for the equipment upgrades, helping train staff on new systems. They're good employees, just took new ownership to unlock their potential. 1 year in, we're ahead of projections. Revenue is up 30%. Profit margins have improved significantly. We're hiring, not laying off. The company is thriving. I'm in my office on a Friday afternoon, reviewing quarterly reports, when my assistant buzzes me. Your Aunt Karen is here. She doesn't have an appointment, but she's asking for 5 minutes. Personal matter, not business. I hesitate, then, send her in. Karen enters, looking nervous. Different from the confident saleswoman who works here. More like the aunt I remember from childhood, before things got complicated. Thank you for seeing me, she says. You said it was personal. What do you need? I'm not here to ask for anything. I'm here to tell you something I should have said a year ago. Something I should have said 15 years ago. I wait. You were right, she says. About all of it. We did dismiss you. We did make you feel like who you were wasn't enough. We were threatened by your intelligence because it was different from what we understood, different from how we achieved things, so we minimized it, made it seem less valuable, made you seem less valuable. I know. And I'm sorry, truly sorry. Not because you're successful now, not because you own this company, but because I hurt you, because I made you feel like you had to prove yourself when you were always enough exactly as you were. I feel something shift in my chest, something I've been holding on to for years. Thank you, I say quietly. That means more than you know. I don't expect forgiveness. I don't expect us to suddenly be close. But I want you to know that I see you now, really see you, and I'm in awe of what you've built. Not just this, she gestures at the office, but who you've become. The man who can buy a company and treat his family with more fairness and professionalism than they ever treated him. That takes strength I don't think I have. It takes boundaries, I correct. Not strength, just clear boundaries. Maybe, but it's impressive either way. She stands to leave, then pauses. Lisa and I were talking about the holiday dinner next month. Thanksgiving. You probably weren't planning to come, given everything, but if you wanted to, you'd be welcome. Not as the owner of the company, not as the successful one, just as Alex, as family. I'll think about it, I say. Non-committal, honest. That's all I can ask. After she leaves, I sit with the invitation, with the possibility of reconciliation, with the question of whether forgiveness is something I want or something I should want. I don't have an answer yet, but for the first time in 15 years, I'm willing to consider the question. 2 years after the acquisition, Dalton Manufacturing is transformed. Revenue has doubled, we've expanded into new markets, we've modernized operations, we're profitable, growing, and becoming a regional success story. And I've learned something. Ownership isn't about revenge. It's about responsibility. Yes, buying the company my family worked for was satisfying. Yes, the moment they saw my name on that slide was vindicating. Yes, proving them wrong felt good. But that's not why I stay, not why I invest, not why I work 18-hour days making this company excellent. I stay because 170 people depend on this company for their livelihoods, because good management creates stability for families, opportunities for growth, dignity in work. I stay because building something excellent, something that functions well and treats people fairly, is more satisfying than any revenge could ever be. I stay because being someone important isn't about proving other people wrong. It's about doing work that matters, creating value, building legacy. My family sees that now. They've stopped asking about our relationship and started focusing on their own growth. My Uncle Brian is being promoted to Senior Operations Manager. My Aunt Karen is consistently our top salesperson. My cousin Lisa's marketing campaigns have won industry awards. They're succeeding because the company is succeeding. Because I created an environment where competence is rewarded and excellence is expected. We're not close, maybe we never will be, but we're professional, respectful, civil, and that's enough. On the second anniversary of the acquisition, I'm standing in the same conference room where I revealed my ownership. Same setup, same mandatory all-hands meeting, different energy. 2 years ago, I say, looking out at faces that are familiar now, I stood in this room and told you I believed in Dalton Manufacturing's potential, that I was committed to growth, stability, and excellence. Today, I want to show you what we've accomplished together. The slides advance. Revenue growth, market expansion, investment returns, employee satisfaction scores, every metric improved. This isn't my success, I continue. It's ours. You all made this happen. Your commitment, your adaptability, your excellence. I provided vision and investment. You provided execution and dedication. I pause. Which is why I'm announcing profit-sharing bonuses for all employees. 20% of net profit will be distributed among staff based on tenure and performance. Additionally, we're implementing a new benefits package and career development program. Details will be emailed by end of day. The room erupts in applause. Genuine appreciation. These are people who've worked hard and are seeing real rewards. I catch my Aunt Karen's eye. She's smiling, not the forced smile from 2 years ago, but something real, something like respect. After the meeting, several employees approach me to shake hands, to thank me, to express appreciation for the changes. My Uncle Brian is among them. You've done something incredible here, he says. James was a good founder, but you're a better owner. You actually care about making this place excellent. Excellence is the only standard worth having. We're lucky you bought this company, even if... He trails off. Even if it was uncomfortable at first. Even if it changed everything. Even if it forced us to face things we'd rather have ignored. Even if, I agree. He extends his hand. I shake it. A professional gesture that carries weight beyond professionalism. Thanksgiving, he says. Karen mentioned she invited you. I want you to know, it would mean a lot if you came. Not because of obligations or guilt, but because we miss you. Because family should be more than blood and history. It should be choice, and we're choosing to try, if you're willing. I consider it, really consider it. The hurt isn't gone. The memories aren't erased. But maybe forgiveness doesn't require either of those things. Maybe it just requires willingness to move forward differently. I'll be there, I say. But I'm bringing the wine, and if anyone calls me book smart but life dumb, I'm leaving. He laughs. Deal. Though I think we've all learned that book smart is life smart. You just knew it before we did. The end. They wanted me to be important, just not more important than them. But importance isn't relative. It's not a competition. It's not about being better than others. It's about doing work that matters, building things that last, creating value that extends beyond yourself. I didn't buy Dalton Manufacturing to prove my family wrong. I bought it because I saw potential they couldn't see, because I understood systems they didn't understand, because I was book smart enough to analyze the opportunity and life smart enough to execute it. The reveal, the slide, the shock, the moment, that was just the beginning. The real success is what came after, building excellence, creating opportunity, proving that intelligence, properly applied, is the most valuable tool in the world. They called me book smart, but life dumb. Turns out books teach you about life, about strategy, about systems, about how to build empires from ideas. Turns out I was learning the whole time, and they're just now catching up.